Before we get into our viewer-requested cases, here's a simple tip for a quick mental reset, something I've been able to do with the help of our sponsor, Scentbird. When life's little, and not so little, stressors pile up, work, family, bills, heavy emotions, I've learned that a quick spritz of fragrance can make a world of difference. I've been obsessed with Scentbird, a monthly fragrance subscription where you choose exactly what you want from over 900 authentic, designer, and niche boutique scents. Each fragrance comes in these adorable atomizers, which have locks on them, so you can keep it in your bag and not have to worry about it accidentally spraying. What I love about these is that it's not just some sort of sample you get at the mall. It's 120 sprays. The fragrance I'm currently in love with is called Lost and Found by Noise. It has undertones of jasmine petals and cedarwood, and for some reason, the Australian pink pepper makes it so unique that I think this is going to be my regular scent. One trick I like to do is spray it in my hair, and I keep getting a whiff of it all day. Sometimes people will compliment me on the perfume, and I'll have sprayed it over 12 hours before. With Scentbird, you can swap out your fragrances any month, repeat a favorite, or explore fragrance houses you've never tried. Use the promo code MERC55OFF or scan the QR code to get 55% off your first month at Scentbird. That makes each fragrance just $8, and your next month only $16.95. Find the scent that takes you out of your chaos and into a headspace you want. Pearl Jean Frances Penson was a vibrant 15-year-old girl living in California on the cusp of her life. Born on December 15th, 2000, she was a freshman at Jesse Bethel High School in Vallejo, part of Solano County in the East Bay Area. Described as beautifully distinctive, she had striking blue eyes, a piercing on the left side of her lower lip, and at the time of her disappearance, her hair was dyed a vivid shade of green. Those who knew her described a personality that matched the uniqueness of her aesthetic, a teenager with an endearing kindness that blossomed as she gained trust in others. Friends recall that Pearl could be quiet and shy at first, but once more comfortable, she revealed a feisty spirit and a clever sense of humor. She loved skateboarding with her brother, going to the beach, and just being outdoors in general. Like many teenagers, she was building a future in her mind, one filled with dreams and purpose. She spoke of becoming a firefighter or a veterinarian, both career goals a reflection of her desire to help others and of her deep love for the earth and its inhabitants. On the morning of May 25th, 2016, Pearl prepared for a normal school day. She dressed in a gray sweater, black leggings, and a black Oakland Raiders beanie. She shouldered her black and turquoise backpack, which was decorated with an emblem of the Joker, and left home to walk to her school bus stop. It was a routine she had followed countless times before. However, this time she would not complete the journey. Shortly before 7 a.m., the mundane morning commute along Interstate 780 was suddenly shattered by a scene of brutal violence playing out above them on the pedestrian overpass. A witness, whose path fatefully intersected with Pearl's, saw a young Hispanic man armed with a handgun dragging Pearl across the bridge. The witness noted she was not going willingly. Witness accounts paint a terrifying picture of Pearl's final confirmed actions, as witnessed by anyone other than her captor. Her face was bloody, and she was screaming desperately for help. The man was seen hitting her in the face, with blows forceful enough to cut open her lip. Her pleas were specific and chilling. Quote, "Help, call the police, he is going to shoot me." As the witness, terrified, ran to find help, they heard the distinct crack of a gunshot. When a teenage witness attempted to intervene directly, the gunman pointed the weapon at him, forcing him to also retreat and seek help. The attacker then threw Pearl into the trunk of a 1997 gold Saturn sedan before speeding away. The remaining witness flagged down a passing car and asked the driver to call 911. When Solano County Sheriff's deputies arrived, the bridge was eerily empty. The only traces of a violent struggle were the bloodstains on the concrete and Pearl's abandoned cell phone. Pearl and her abductor were gone. The public and brazen nature of the attack signaled an extremely dangerous and volatile perpetrator. The initial chaos and conflicting reports from the horrified and traumatized witnesses would have devastating consequences. Investigators were initially hastily told that the suspect had fled on foot, a critical and almost unimaginable misunderstanding that delayed the identification of his vehicle. The poor investigation techniques used to interview the witnesses resulted in a cataclysmic misunderstanding. This mistake would hamper the immediate law enforcement response, giving the kidnapper a tragically significant head start. And investigators were left to contend with the fact that the very brutality of the case, which made it so urgent, was the same factor which allowed Pearl Pinson to vanish into thin air in front of witnesses. Within hours, detectives had identified the suspect through witness testimony. Fernando Castro, a 19-year-old local man, was named as Pearl's abductor. What made the case so terrifying was that there seemed to be no reason at all, no motive, no link between him and Pearl. At first, news reports and police briefings described Castro as, quote, an acquaintance of Pearl. That detail, while frightening, at least suggested a possible explanation. Maybe it was a rejected yet still inappropriate crush, or maybe a personal argument that spiraled into violence. But as the Solano County Sheriff's Office looked closer, that theory quickly fell apart. Investigators searched both Pearl's and Castro's phones and social media accounts, but found no evidence of any contact between them. And even though the man lived just half a mile away, Pearl's family had never heard of him. Detective Sean Matson later summed it up succinctly, quote, "It's just a mystery as to why her. There's just no connection." This definitive conclusion fundamentally altered the nature of the crime. It was not then a targeted act against Pearl Pinson specifically, but a terrifyingly random act against the larger community. She was not chosen for who she was, but simply because she was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Castro's own background offered few clues. He had only a minimal criminal history, with no prior offenses related to stalking, kidnapping, or the kind of violence which was displayed on the bridge. His family was reportedly, quote, blindsided by his actions and cooperated fully with the investigation, expressing their own intense desire for Pearl to be found safely. However, a search of Castro's residence painted a much grimmer picture, one that suggested premeditation and a disturbed psychological state. Inside, deputies found .38 caliber ammunition matching the type of weapon used in the abduction. They also found zip ties, a makeshift gun silencer fashioned from an automotive filter, and, most chillingly, a suicide letter. These items, they said, were not the tools of a man who acted spontaneously. They were implements of someone who had planned for violence and who, perhaps, had no intention of surviving the aftermath. The suicide note, they said in particular, provided a crucial window into his mindset. This would foreshadow the desperate actions he would later take in his final hours. Despite having a suspect and significant evidence, investigators faced a crucial problem. Castro had vanished alongside Pearl, and precious time was slipping away. In the 36 hours that followed the abduction, Castro led investigators on a baffling and desperate chase that spanned hundreds of miles across California. His movements, tracked by surveillance cameras and witness sightings, were erratic and seemingly illogical, leaving a cold trail that only deepened the mystery of Pearl's whereabouts. However, the investigation quickly took a dramatic turn when Castro was finally spotted on traffic cameras. At 9:30 a.m., just 2.5 hours after the kidnapping, police were finally able to locate his gold 1997 Saturn in surveillance camera footage. With license plate 5XZD385, It was captured moving on Sir Francis Drake Boulevard near the San Rafael Bridge in Marin County. However, in the footage, Pearl was not visible in the vehicle. Castro's journey continued north, as tracked by highway and freeway cameras. And the following morning, May 26th, he was spotted at a gas station in Bodega Bay, a coastal town in Sonoma County. This sighting would later make the rugged Sonoma coast the primary focus of the search for 15-year-old Pearl. Then, for reasons that still remain unknown, Castro turned around and began a frantic 300-mile drive south. By the time the statewide Amber Alert was finally issued, delayed by nearly 32 hours due to the initial confusion of the suspect not being in a car but on foot, Castro was already deep into Southern California. The alert, meant to be an immediate call to action, came far too late and with little response. Around 3 p.m. on May 26th, a California Highway Patrol officer spotted the gold Saturn traveling south on Highway 101 near Los Alamos in Santa Barbara County. The manhunt, which had been a sprawling investigation, instantly became a high-stakes, life-or-death pursuit. The chase lasted over an hour and reached speeds exceeding 100 miles per hour. The pursuit culminated in the small town of Slaving, where Castro crashed into a police barricade, abandoned his moving vehicle, and began firing at officers with his .38 caliber revolver. A bullet struck the windshield of Deputy Nathan Flint's patrol car. Deputies returned fire, striking Castro once in the leg. Wounded but undeterred, Castro fled into the mobile home park nearby. He broke into a residence, forcing the terrified occupant to flee, but she escaped unharmed. Castro then stole the occupant's Toyota Tundra pickup truck in a final desperate attempt to escape. However, instead of peeling away, he drove the stolen truck slowly back toward the line of deputies who had taken up positions, pointing his handgun out the driver's side window and firing 3 more shots. At that moment, 5 deputies unleashed a volley of fire from their department-issued AR-15 patrol rifles. They fired 36 rounds into the truck. Castro was struck 12 times and died slumped over the steering wheel, taking with him any knowledge of what happened to Pearl Pinson. With Castro dead, the frantic search for Pearl continued. The investigation pivoted from that of a manhunt to that of a massive search and rescue operation, guided by the ghost of Castro's movements. But the trail was cold, the landscape vast, and the evidence scant and painfully ambiguous. Based on the confirmed sighting of Castro's car in Bodega Bay, the search effort focused intensely on the rugged, rural coastline of Sonoma County. A 25-square-mile area around Jenner and Willow Creek Road became the primary grid for searching for the 15-year-old. For days, more than 65 personnel from the search and rescue teams of Solano, Marin, and Sonoma counties scoured the unforgiving terrain. They searched on the ground and in the water, looking for any sign of the missing girl or possibly a clandestine grave. Investigators thoroughly searched Castro's vehicle, finding a small amount of blood in the trunk. DNA testing confirmed that the blood belonged to Pearl. Despite the immense effort, the search yielded nothing. No clothing, no backpack, no sign of the girl. Eventually, the exhaustive search was called off, having reached dead end after dead end. The Pinson family has never given up hope of finding Pearl. Her sister Rose has become the primary advocate for keeping Pearl's case in the public eye, organizing annual vigils and working tirelessly to maintain media attention. In 2017, Rose told CBS, quote, "Since day one, we've all had hope that she is alive out there somewhere. We won't give up." The family has held vigils every year on the anniversary of Pearl's disappearance, gathering at the very spot where she was last seen. Anyone with information that could lead to finding Pearl is urged to call the tip line at area code 707-784-1963. Tips can remain anonymous. Kortne Stouffer was a self-described hippie at heart, a free spirit who loved nature and could be found more often outdoors than in. Her favorite way to relax was to float down the slow-moving waters of Swatara Creek, a place her family was so familiar with they lovingly referred to it as Swatty. After graduating high school, she studied and achieved her goal of getting her cosmetology license. Working 2 jobs, one at a salon alongside her mother and another at a pet groomer, Kortne was known for her hard work and dedication. In 2012, she was in love. She and her 19-year-old boyfriend, Brad Herr, had moved into a second-floor apartment at 810 West Main Street in Palmyra, Pennsylvania, a comfortably short drive from her childhood home. Most importantly to Kortne, the complex allowed her to bring her beloved dog, Sheba. It was a new chapter in life that seemed full of promise. Their walk-up sat on a well-traveled stretch of Main Street just outside of Hershey, Pennsylvania, a popular tourist destination. However, the apartment was anything but a vacation. It was the kind of unit where voices travel almost unimpeded through the paper-thin walls, and every footfall on the landing is privy to the helpless neighbors below. On the evening of Saturday, July 28, 2012, Kortne and Brad were hosting a small gathering at their apartment. Brad was on house arrest for a DUI, a fact known to their neighbors. Around 9 p.m., Palmyra police and a probation officer arrived, reportedly after a call from neighbors about underage drinking. With Brad's criminal history, he was taken into custody for a probation violation, and 2 others were cited for underage drinking. According to the timeline that was released by the district attorney, there were 7 people inside of Kortne's home, and Kortne, then 21, was the only one of legal drinking age. She was the only person left in the apartment when probation and police departed. Kortne was alone, distraught, and angry, convinced her downstairs neighbor had been the one to call the police on her and her boyfriend. After a frustrated and stressed-out call to her mother, she decided to go out for the night. At 10:07 p.m., she began texting with Cody Pruitt, an acquaintance, and his friend Milton Rodriguez. She first drove to meet up with the 2 at the gas station bar in Hummelstown. There, she left her own car parked and rode with the group towards 2nd Street, a bar district in Harrisburg. There, a new conflict erupted. Around 1:50 a.m., inside the hardware bar on 2nd Street, Kortne found herself in a heated verbal argument with the girlfriend of a man named Arvard Brown, possibly over an accusation that Arvard had stolen from her in the past. Bar security quickly intervened and escorted Kortne outside. The group reunited a few minutes later, and after leaving the bar district, they made a brief stop for pizza before beginning the drive back to Palmyra. The district attorney's timeline places them back in the area at around 2:45 a.m., with Cody Pruitt driving a car owned by Milton Rodriguez as the designated driver. They first dropped off another couple on North Railroad Street. Then they dropped off Milton on West Cherry Street. Kortne asked Cody to drive her to the gas station bar in Hummelstown so she could pick up her car, which she had left there earlier in the night. After she got her car, Kortne asked that Cody trail behind her as she drove back to her apartment, presumably in order to make sure that she arrived home safely. After ensuring she made it back home safely, Cody ended up staying the night at Kortne's apartment, later telling investigators that he simply fell asleep there after following her home. At 3:12 a.m., Palmyra police were dispatched following a call from Kortne's downstairs neighbors about a disturbance in her home. Officers arrived at 3:15 a.m. and noted that everybody present appeared intoxicated and ordered all parties back to their apartments to de-escalate the situation. By 3:49 a.m., authorities had cleared the scene, believing that the matter was resolved. The neighbors identified in the official account, Janice Remenschneider, Richard Sheets, and Todd Saksek, gave conflicting versions of the events. Kortne said the aforementioned neighbors had come out yelling at her while she was simply walking her dog Sheba. However, Todd Sasek claims that Kortne kicked him in the leg, A nearby North Londonderry Township unit arrived at 3:22 a.m., serving as backup for the local police and ordering everyone back inside their respective homes. At 4:11 a.m., Todd called police again, reporting this time that Kortne was now inside of her apartment, stomping on the floor above them, slamming doors, and yelling through the walls. Officers returned at 4:31 a.m. and knocked on Kortne's door to no avail. Peering through a patio door and then a side window, they said they saw nothing unusual. There were 2 dogs in the apartment at the time. One was Kortne's dog Sheba, the one she had had since she was 8 years old, and one was her boyfriend's. Police reported hearing barking from deep inside the apartment, quieting after the first knock and then starting again when officers knocked once more. With no response, but also no legal authority to force entry, police left the property at 4:36 a.m. These would be the last documented noises to ever come from inside of Kortne's apartment. While the downstairs neighbor, Todd, interpreted those sounds as continued aggression on Kortne's behalf, but another, far darker possibility exists. The stomping, slamming, and yelling may not have been sounds of anger after all, but the sounds of a violent struggle. If so, a crime may have been unfolding, or may have just ended as officers stood outside of Kortne's door, unaware. The FBI's VICAP summary later reduced the entire moment to that of a single line. The last known contact, they said, was, quote, regarding a disturbance around 4:30 a.m., and foul play was suspected. As the sun rose on Sunday, July 29th, 2012, the chaos of the night gave way to silence. At 7:30 a.m., Todd went to the police station to file a formal harassment complaint against Kortne. Around 7:56 a.m., Cody Pruitt told investigators he woke up inside Kortne's apartment to find her gone. He said that she assumed she might be sleeping elsewhere in the unit and had left, stopping at Sheet's convenience store before returning the car he had borrowed. He then texted Kortne, quote, "Hey, what happened to you?" More texts went out at 12:36 p.m. and then at 1:58 p.m. with no response. Surveillance footage later confirms that Cody did stop at the Sheet store. The next day, Sunday, July 30th, Kortne failed to meet up with her brother at the Lebanon County Farm Show, something her family said she would never miss. Kortne's family, concerned with her lack of communication, filed a missing persons report at 2:42 p.m. the next day, July 30th. When police entered Kortne's apartment, they found no signs of forced entry nor a visible struggle. Yet, it looked like inside, life had simply paused. Kortne's purse, containing money and cigarettes, sat by her bed. Her keys, shoes, and cell phone were where she always left them. Her car was outside with its windows down. Both her dogs were inside. Investigators noted the absence of physical evidence of a struggle, but were disturbed by the seemingly ordinary placement of belongings. Everything visibly suggested that Kortne had planned to come back home. In the days that followed, the investigation widened in scope. On July 31st, Lebanon County detectives joined the Palmyra police. On August 8th, canine units searched a 2-mile radius around Kortne's home at 810 West Main. On August 9th, forensic teams searched Kortne's apartment, neighboring units, and several vehicles. However, no evidence emerged. Both federal and state agencies participated in the search for Kortne, as well as a private investigator hired by the family, but no significant evidence nor leads turned up. Investigators looked at everyone connected to the night. The downstairs neighbors drew early suspicion because of the loud confrontations and multiple phone calls. Kortne's father said he saw one neighbor loading large garbage bags into his vehicle soon after Kortne went missing. That same neighbor had left a voicemail for the landlady threatening to, quote, take care of the situation himself. Yet searches of their apartments and vehicles turned up nothing. Police later said they did not believe the neighbors were involved. Cody Pruitt, the last person confirmed to have been with Kortne, faced intense questioning. He admitted to having an unreciprocated crush on her and provided a DNA sample. He later passed a polygraph test, and investigators said they have never classified him nor Milton Rodriguez as suspects or even persons of interest. Another theory considered whether the people involved in the altercation in the bar in Harrisburg followed Kortne home. Police say no evidence supports this, and the man that she argued with had an alibi. In 2014, 2 years after Kortne went missing, a tip claimed that she was killed over a drug robbery and her body dumped in Memorial Lake. Divers searched the lake but found nothing, and authorities labeled the tip as unreliable. Over the years, the case has slowed to a standstill. Kortne's father, Scott, expressed his frustration to the media, saying, quote, "The biggest, most suspicious lead I would have is the people who surrounded her that night, and that's just common sense." More than a decade has passed since Kortne went missing. Her sister, Kirsten, has since grown up, married, and had children, milestones Kortne should have been a part of. Her family speaks of seeing bright colors, a rainbow, a vivid outfit, a flower, and thinking of Kortne, who loved eye-catching colors and the outdoors. Each summer, the community gathers for the Come Home Kortne float on the Swatara Creek. Her family still marks her birthdays, and with her in spirit celebrates holidays and anniversaries, all while wondering the same questions. What happened in that 5-minute window between 4:31 and 4:36 a.m.? Who, if anyone, silenced the barking dogs? And why has no trace of Kortne ever been found? Leads have been chased, tips investigated, and searches conducted on both land and water, yet the timeline remains frozen in those early morning hours of July 29th, 2012. The FBI and NamUs continue to list Kortne Stouffer as missing under suspicious circumstances. A $100,000 reward is still available for information leading to an arrest and conviction. A federal bulletin later circulated by the FBI's Violent Crime Apprehension Program, also known as VICAP, would memorialize Kortne's unique identifiers, listing her at 5'8", 115 to 120 pounds, with blonde hair and the rare genetic phenotype of visually striking green eyes. She also had 3 tattoos: the Bob Marley phrase, "One Love," on her right arm, 3 stars on her right foot, and a pistol shooting out flowers on her left side. Details investigators still ask the public to remember to this day. If you have any knowledge related to the disappearance of Kortne, please reach out directly to Lebanon County Detective Bureau at area code 717-228-4403. Their office is available 24/7, and tips can also be submitted anonymously. Thank you so much to Scentbird for supporting the channel and positively contributing to my peace of mind. Check them out by scanning the QR code or by using promo code MERC, MERC, 55 off to get 55% off your first month at Scentbird. If you like what we do and want to see more, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much to our patrons. If you would like to support this channel, you can visit the link in our bio below.